In this daily drop, I'm going to talk about the importance of having all of your travel documents in place before you go on a trip. So let's go. All right, everybody, if you've been following along, we are going overseas now about 36 hours from this moment, and it's time to talk about planning for travel. It's a given, but as a producer, it's so important to me to make sure that in order to enjoy the trip that I'm going on, even though it will be a combination of business and pleasure, that all of our documentation and everything that we need is accounted for. And the big thing that I would give as advice, because while I love to save trees and the environment and everything else, my advice is make sure that you have both electronic and paper versions of your documentation. I make sure that I go through with our flights, car rentals, hotel bookings, any other type of transportation or anything that has a reservation that is attached to it. And I print that documentation and I carry that with me on our trips. That way, if the electronic versions of the documentation are not accessible, you don't have internet, so on and so forth, you have paper copies of your documentation. Passports, this is my daughter's, but passports and everything else that you need, make sure that those are in order and try to do that at least a few days before you go on your trip. One of the things that we're dealing with on this particular trip is we booked our flights through one airline, a US carrier, but it's actually a European carrier in terms of the planes we're going to be on, at least going to Europe. So that also puts a little bit of a wrench in things, because you'll go to your carrier's website and you'll start to try to do things like check in for your flight, potentially change your seats, whatever it is. And you may find that you can't do that. So it's also important to make sure that if you have a reservation number or booking code through the airline that you book through, that you're also going to find that booking code or reservation number for the airline that you're actually flying on, because there's these code shares and everything else, but they don't always communicate well between the different carriers, the websites, and all of that kind of stuff. So don't leave that stuff to the last minute. If you are going to have to start to do things like check in for your flights and things, don't say, oh, I'll figure that out an hour before check-in. Do that at least a day or two before you're checking in for your flights. And then, at least for me, for peace of mind, and again, to enjoy the trip as much as possible, I try to make sure that I'm doing as many things as I can for that entire trip before we actually leave. That way I can take my attention off of those things, have that documentation, and you get the idea. All right, well, that's all I got for today. Don't forget to, and I'll see you on the next episode of The Daily Drop.